You're listening to Coast Business Radio with Mike Ryan.
From the Gold Coast, Dr Jennifer Cronin was appointed President of Wharf Hotels in 2016. Before joining the group, she held various senior marketing and operational positions with leading international hotel groups including Hyatt International and Ritz-Carlton. Jennifer was very involved in the launch of a new luxury hotel brand, Niccolo, opening the first of the luxury portfolio, Niccolo Chengdu. The brand has been internationally acclaimed. and set the benchmark for exceptional properties in China and Hong Kong. The group is one of the leading regional players in the hospitality industry. Jennifer graduated with a PhD in 2016 from Bond University based on a PhD research titled Empowering Readiness, Influencing Crisis Management Success Outcomes. Jennifer also received the 2016 APAC BMW Corporate Hotelier of the Year Award, ACI Singapore 2017 Mentor of the Year Award, the Australia China Alumni Association's 2018 Award for Corporate Achievement, and in 2019 from the Griffith Business School an Outstanding Alumnus Award. Jennifer has been appointed to several industry and advisory committees. Following serious disruption to hospitality and tourism in Hong Kong and in the wake of COVID-19, Jennifer recently joined the Hong Kong Tourism Board Recovery Task Force, plus is on the expert panel for the Secretary of Commerce. She also chairs the Heritage Brands Private Task Force, including great hotels such as Mandarin Oriental, Peninsula, Shangri-La, Rosewood and Swire Hotels, responding to the serious disruption of their industry. What a life. Jennifer Cronin, welcome.
Thank you. That was very kind, Mike. Thank you so much.
It's a lot done. Before we get to the present-day crisis, tell us about your amazing journey from the Gold Coast to Hong Kong.
Right. Well, going all the way back, I'm a Beenleigh State High School girl, so I've certainly been able to bridge the gap between Australia and this part of the world, and I think I'm very proud that as a Gold Coast tourism person to be able to take some of my learnings over to Bangkok, Singapore and Hong Kong, where I've worked over the last 20 years. It's been a great journey. So I'm very proud from very humble beginnings in Beenleigh to being a Griffith University and a Bond University alumnus as well. So I'm a proud Queenslander, Gold Coaster, and I miss everybody at the moment since we can't be in touch.
But we can virtually. Virtually, it's not the same as it's like having a virtual scotch. I mean, It might look good, but doesn't do the job.
Yes, it is. But that's the beauty of technology today, and it's great to be able to chat to someone at home.
About your role at Wharf Hotels and the plans for the group, can you tell us about that?
Okay, so our company has 17 hotels between the Philippines, 4 here in Hong Kong, and 10 in China. And we have 5,000 employees across the group. So my role is about the development of the company, as well as ensuring that our brands are easily recognizable, as is Marco Polo and now Niccolo Hotels. So it's a very busy time for us at the moment. Even though there may not be a lot of people traveling, we need to deal with the current situation, but also preparing for the post-COVID world.
You and your properties have been the centre of things in Hong Kong, then COVID-19 in Wuhan. What's that been like, and what have you learned and achieved together?
I think firstly with the COVID in Wuhan, we have a Marco Polo in Wuhan, which was commandeered by the government for emergency workers of 300 rooms over almost 2 months. So it was in lockdown for 75 days straight, and our general manager managed through that all the way with a skeleton staff. But the beauty of it was that, and what we see as a success is there has not been one COVID case in our hotels, in that hotel, with our people or our guests. And I think that is a reflection of the very strict protocols that we have been practicing. And I think that the rest of the world can learn from what we have done. So I think that's something that we need to really talk about more, that this pandemic does not respond to borders. It's going across the world. And rather than getting into a blame game, it's about learning from each other. And the same happened in Hong Kong. Until today, we only have 4 fatalities. We have one of the most densely packed cities in the world of 7 million people. And we were already practicing very strict protocols, especially in our hotels, from late January. So it's about respecting those requirements and respecting what the government wants to do. And I think Australia, on the other hand, has also done a fantastic job, and I'm watching that from afar as well, considering that Australia was not used to this kind of pandemic, and having been through SARS in Singapore and then with COVID coming into China and Hong Kong, we were ready and we could step up very fast and deal with it, I believe, much faster than the Western world has been able to approach it.
On the Gold Coast, it's very tough at the moment, as you would well imagine, for a property not to have guests. What advice would you give those properties? And I'm sure there's a lot of major chains here and the like, but there are the smaller ones that are saying, well, man, oh man, I need people. I can't stay afloat for the next 6 months without people coming to my property.
Sure. I think, and congratulations to the Australian government for coming up with the Job Keeper program. I think that is an amazing move by the government. And again, it's being used as an example here when we're dealing with the Hong Kong government. What we have done, because we have just here in our 4 hotels in Hong Kong, we have almost 1,200 employees. So how do we keep them busy with single-digit numbers in occupancies? And that's 2,000 rooms. So we have also the government here has announced some subsidies. So besides all the usual cost containment measures that we have taken, we jumped very quickly into doing CSR, corporate social responsibility programs, where we are working with our communities from all kinds of activities, because you also have to keep the morale of your employees as high as you possibly can, because there is a huge fear of the unknown, fear of what the pandemic is doing to their families and their livelihoods, fear of will they have a job, what will the world look like after this. So we've been very active in various CSR programs, from not only having our housekeeping staff making masks for the homeless. We have been making up care packs from all of the toothpastes and toothbrushes and soaps and so on for the homeless, sending teams out to do clean-up jobs around the foreshores and the beaches of Hong Kong, but also looking at outsourcing opportunities. There are businesses that are still busy, whether it's call centers, whether it's government departments are not being able to cope. So we have a very well-trained workforce that we have looked to those other opportunities to see where we can outsource our people. And already we've outsourced about 150 of our staff from our hotels. So again, it's showing them that we are looking for solutions and not worrying about what we can't do, but what can we do. I think that's a a really important part of keeping everybody's spirits as high as possible and showing them that we're going to get through this together.
Tell us about the work that you're doing for the Hong Kong Tourism Board and the Heritage Brands Private Task Force and its aims and initiatives.
The Hong Kong Tourism Board has been hit very hard because we had 6 months last year of, as you know, the social unrest in Hong Kong. That had already impacted heavily on our business here in Hong Kong, but COVID brought it to a completely different level. And so they had started preparing campaigns but have not been able to launch them now that we have borders closed, airline networks are not flying, and so on. But we feel that as a group that we can give them some guidance and support on our international networks and what people are looking for. And of course, you cannot stay silent at this moment. You need to engage with your customers, your guests, your clientele as much as possible to show that care and concern, because we are going to come out of this and we want to be top of mind. So we have been able to put together the Heritage Tourism Brands Group, which is supported by our home carrier, Cathay. And the idea is that we can have a much stronger voice when working together and collaborating together. Even during SARS in Hong Kong, which it's by its nature, a very competitive city. So this collaboration has been unheard of before. And it's really given us a chance to share best practices, share ideas, and I think it's allowing us to get out of this much stronger. As a Gold Coast tourism person, I believe we collaborated as a destination in the past brilliantly. I think Tourism Australia does a brilliant job. So we are used to collaborating in Australia. We understand volunteerism much better than most countries in the world, from our rural firefighters to the surf life saving. We understand the whole volunteer nature of a community, whereas that's not as strong in a place like Hong Kong or in Asia. So using those kinds of approaches have really given us a chance to speak up, having a more powerful voice with government. And it's really, I've been here nearly 6 years, and I've found that now we can pick up the phone to each other more easily and share those challenges that we're all having and walk through it together to find solutions. And I think that's so important for us all.
I picture Hong Kong as being this vibrant city, an enormous amount of visitors coming, usually by plane, although some ships. All this, just an amazing city, the gateway to mainland China. But what's it like right now? I mean, it's because I picture all the restaurants and the noise and the vibrancy. Is it still the same now, just using locals, or has it taken a bit of a hit?
Well, it's definitely taken a hit. There's no question about that. But we are not under the strictest lockdowns that you're seeing now in Australia. Remember, we started this before the Lunar New Year celebration. So late January, we were already starting to physical distancing, and all of the health declaration forms were already underway. So the mask wearing is second nature in Asia. So that was already being practiced, and hence I think the low case numbers in Hong Kong. Therefore, our restaurants are not closed. Certain bar areas that only sell alcohol have been closed, but basically restaurants are operating. They can, but they must practice the physical distancing. We can only have 4 to a table. So people are getting out and about. Our retail centres are open. It's giving the local people a chance to get out. And I don't think all of our public transport is all still operating. The staff ferry is going across the harbour. So it's just a bit quieter. It's not empty, but it's definitely quieter than it would normally be.
Because of the recent events, what will the impact be on tourist and hospitality sectors in Hong Kong for the future?
I think we're learning, and having been the beauty of technology, having been on many Zoom meetings or Skype calls or with many of our industry, we know that it's going to take some time to return. We are seeing green shoots in our properties in China, and actually more than green shoots. We're up to 50% occupancies in our Niccolos in Chengdu, Chongqing, Changsha. We're coming into the Labor Day long weekend, and we know that many of our hotels are going to be almost full over this time. Mm-hmm. So once the land borders open between mainland China, we have the high-speed rail, the bullet trains coming into Hong Kong now. Once those borders open, we see a very slow ramp up, but at the same time, at least we know that we will see some return to normality. It's the long haul business that we won't see. It's those European and US visitation that will take. It could come back next year. We're not sure, but we're all talking about those tourism bubbles, and if Hong Kong stays as free of COVID as we are today, let's hope that with an Australian bubble or an Australian-New Zealand bubble that we can have that, and I can come home to the Gold Coast as well. But yeah, I think that we know that post-COVID world, the big events, the big conferences, we don't see them coming online for some time because there's going to be a lot of anxiety and fear of those types of gatherings in the short term.
You know the Gold Coast and the recent challenges of bushfires, COVID-19 and ongoing border restrictions. Any insights on the most important factor in recovery of tourism here?
Well, in many ways, I think Australia and particularly the Gold Coast have always had great best practices that we can learn from. But it's definitely going to be the domestic market that we need to win the minds and the hearts of Australians staying at home, visiting the Gold Coast. When we were growing up and my first jobs on the Gold Coast, Australia was and supported the Gold Coast enormously, and it's only since low-cost carriers and the great airfares of the international travel that really allowed Australians to see the world so freely. I think now it's time to take stock of who we are and celebrate our beautiful country first before that international travel returns. And I think that will be very important to focus very much on domestic travel in the short term.
Your future goals, you really can't go that much further than you are now. Is it coming back to, say, Currumbin Viking Surf Club president? I don't know.
I think we have a bit to do in a post-COVID world here, and I would like to be able to contribute. I would like not to leave my legacy being hotels on single-digit occupancies and prepare everybody for a new world. It's almost like after 9/11, how security in airlines and the world, the international security world changed. I think this has really given everybody an opportunity to step up to looking at how we deal with this around the world for the future. So I'd like to be part of that from here. But definitely I'm coming home eventually. I would like to be able to use my international experience for directorships in Australian companies that I can make a positive contribution to, but also mentoring the new generation of business leaders from home. I have continued my close relationship with not only Bond University and Griffith University, but also Beenleigh State High School. So I think that if I can give back and prepare them for their futures, that's part. I'll feel that I've done my job. If
somebody was thinking about the hospitality industry and moving right up the chain, right up to the very top, and you've probably been asked this a trillion times, but what would be your answer to someone saying, I want to get to where you got to?
There's a lot of combination of factors. It's working with all of your mentors and reaching out to them and learning from them. I have so many in my life that, but a few special ones, definitely from the Gold Coast, Peter Doggett, Holger Hurley, who set up Conrad Jupiter's Casino. So many that I could refer to, but also having a work ethic and integrity of what you do as being the biggest part of making sure that you prepare for the future. And no matter what you do, if you work hard and you work diligently and honestly, it will pay off in so many ways. And for me, it definitely has. I'm living a dream that I had from high school. So I was in Japan as an exchange student, and I wanted to go back to see the world. And I have through my work and through the love of my work.
An amazing life. The journey continues, hasn't come to an end yet. All the very best. We'd love to keep this conversation going. Dr. Jennifer Cronin, President of Wharf Hotels, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Love to Gold Coast.